Well, back with this again this week, or today, I should say, co-hosting. Miss Newsmax is on, and I joke she's on Fox News. Alex Bougher is co-hosting with us this week, and I'll get to some of our panel stuff. Today's going to be another fun one. And Alex, I love talking about conspiracies. I'm not the biggest conspiracy guy, but I love talking about a good conspiracy, which you all call facts. But
I was going to say, can you call it conspiracy if they are all true?
Yeah. And I want to talk, a couple of issues I want to talk about in today's show is the movement of going down the path, unless Democrats are still talking about an income tax, which they're talking about here in Florida. I know other states have them as well. There were 4 avenues of where they could talk about raising revenue. And I want to address 4 of those because 2 of them is gambling and marijuana. And if Florida goes down the path of a property tax, and there's this property tax movement throughout the country to at least cut it, eliminate it, whatever, that somebody's going to have to sit back and say, well, we got to raise revenue. And the 2 areas that they're talking about is more gambling and more of that of education. So we'll get into that. I want to bring in Ed Lynch, who is, of course, not only a business owner, but a professor at Palm Beach State College, and then also his own website and podcast, the Primal Truth. Ed, before I get into any of that, I want to play a clip. Scott Rasmussen, well-known pollster, does these polls or does these commentaries on Twitter or X about 3 or 4 times during the week to talk about certain issues, how people perceive this, how people perceive that. This kind of deals because you're down in West Palm, which is outside of New York City, is a huge Jewish community, and a lot of
second largest in the nation.
Yeah. And evangelicals, Israel is a friend of the U.S. That's how we perceived it as well. But yet he says 2 months ago, now I know these numbers have been brought down by Republicans, but there's more than just Republicans. So 58% of voters, I'll play the clip, believed I got stuff going on feedback, so hold on a second. So anyway, 58% said that Israel was an ally of the U.S. That number has dropped by 25 points over the last couple of months. Listen to the clip.
2 months ago, 58% of voters told us Israel was an ally of the United States. That number is down 25 points. 49% of GOP voters still see that nation as our...
Okay, hold on. I'm going to play the rest of the clip. 49% of Republicans, 50%, which I think that number's low, I may be wrong, perceive Israel as an ally of the U.S. Here's more of the clip.
Ally. The Democratic Party, though, the numbers are different. 29% see Israel as an enemy, only 20% as an ally. And oh, by the way, among younger voters under the age of 35, a solid plurality now say that Israel is our enemy.
You know, when
What? They know.
I had my mic off.
Oh, there you go.
My apologies.
All right, you go now. Alex and I, we were doing our own thing.
We were taking over.
You may end up doing that today. Ed, how do you go from 58% down to by 25 points in 2 months? And number 2, to me, I would perceive 49% of GOP voters perceive Israel as an ally. You know what that says to me? That the podcast, I'm not saying I agree with them. Trust me. I mean, I like Tucker and listening to him, but I don't agree with everything. But Tucker, Candace, the Nick Fuentes, even some of my girl, Megan Kelly, Alex Jones, that number's dropped, which means conservative world are listening to these other podcasts. Am I off on this one? Ed Lynch, let me start with you.
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, pollsters or pollees and voters only know what they're told. And so whatever they're told, that's what they think. The problem that we have, and again, Dennis usually is pretty good with his polls, but the truth of the matter is I'd like to see what the poll is, because every poll to some extent is a push poll. Now, that being said, look, I was at New Year's Eve standing at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu looking at that, and he's our ally and all of this stuff, and it was great at that time. And what happened is we're getting sick and tired of the war. And people have to understand, Bibi did what is right for Israel. That doesn't mean it was right for the world. It doesn't mean it was wrong or right for Iran. It doesn't mean it's right for us. Bibi saw an opportunity with the president who will he has his ear and he's able to convince him, talk to him, cajole him, whatever the case may be, into taking action that no other president would in order to get rid of his number one stated enemy, who is Iran, because they fund both Hamas and Hezbollah. So to the south and north. I can't blame Bibi for doing what he needed to do, but a lot of stuff's come out about Bibi. And if there was no war, Bibi would probably be, with lawyers right now because he's under a few issues. So just because it's Israel and just because it's Bibi doesn't mean we have to love them and we have to respect them, but it doesn't mean we have to agree with everything about them. And I think reality is coming to the forefront now, and people are going, you know what? Maybe it's not exactly as we see. So again, I'd like to see Scott's, the way that he asked the question. No,
Alex, that was actually an interesting issue. I know we talked about this a few days ago with our a previous guest. That was actually kind of an issue with the whole Massey thing. I mean, you could be against Trump, but sometimes going out of your way does have an effect. I mean, Rand Paul's got it pretty much knocked down. I like Rand. Rand says, listen, I play golf with he sets it up. I play golf with the president like Ed Lynch does. 2 or 3 times, we get along great. This is where I differ. And okay, that kind of softens the discussion. But when you talked about Massey and his opponent, I mean, the Israel lobby and blah, blah, blah. I to me wonder if this whole AIPAC and is this just an overblown issue, or are the Tuckers right and all these that no? I mean, Alex Jones thinks that Netanyahu's running the White House strategy room on bombing Iran. Is this an overrated issue, or is it one of these? It's actually, Ed, it's a good discussion to have. How do you come down on this one?
I mean, nobody knows what to believe anymore. We've been lied to. We talked about this. The world is not as it seems. And so we have become very skeptical about everything that we're being told. I do think people are listening to those shows, Candace and Tucker and Jones and all of that. And the only reason that those shows I think are really doing well is because nobody really trusts the government that much anymore. And it doesn't matter what party line you're on. You've been lied to at one time or another by our government. That this is fact. And so everybody sort of in the back of their head is like, is this right? Like even our nightcap question last night was, they were asking like 30% of Americans think the assassination was staged. That's a very large number than maybe 5 years ago. Okay. And it's because we're constantly being fed what to think or lies or AI videos and things like that. So we're questioning everything. I mean, the youth number really does not surprise me at all, because these kids are basically being Jewish kids in schools are being bullied, and it's being allowed to happen. And so the kids, the other kids are almost like, oh, they must be right. Maybe these kids aren't good, or maybe this religion, you know what I mean? And so they're sort of being brought up this way. So the youth number really does not surprise me whatsoever. This is what people do. They groom young children.
Alex, that number, to your point, it's an interesting discussion, and we're going to get to the other one in a second. But Ed, she said something interesting. And in fact, Alex, that number may be even a little bit lower, but Democrats, or was it population, but a boatload of Democrats, they perceive, and we're talking about the first Trump assassination attempt. I'm like, oh, how was that fake? Somebody died. I don't know how people perceive that to be Hollywood, Ed. I don't know where some of the Democrats are thinking of.
Well, I mean, they just don't want to believe the truth. And again, people, we've been lied to so much. I mean, just look at what's coming out with that UFOs. Now, quite frankly, I don't know if it's a Nephilim. I'm pretty sure that Eric Trump, when you see a picture of me and him together, he's a Nephilim. I mean, the guy's like, his head is like this big compared to mine. And I don't have a small head. So he, how many years? No, it's nothing. It's nothing. And now we're getting a steady stream of UFOs are coming out. The JFK Kennedy assassination, we're talking about what happened there. And all of a sudden they break into the CIA office and take the rest of the documents that they didn't want us to know, even though we knew. And the issue that I always say is it's not a matter of whether or not it's happened. We're at a point in our society where if we found out the government was really corrupt and crooked, we would go, yeah, no, we kind of knew that. That's the problem. And we just can't trust anything that the government says, even to the point, again, Scott does great polls. But you know what? How many people did you poll? What's the margin of error on the poll? What were the questions? I want to know how much of a push poll it is, because every poll is a push poll to a certain extent. And that's how they come with the margin of error. But if you don't talk to at least 1,200 people and you don't have a margin of error under 3 and significantly under 3, it's not a poll. Just go home and ask the people that you like and want to, direct the answers to be what you want them to be, just so that you could get more people to buy your polls or whatever the case may be. And again, it's not a crack on Scott. It is what it is.
I know. That's fine. You can crack on anybody. But for years, as a print, back when they had print papers before everything went online, Ed knows my story for years. He's been on with me for quite a while. I always love having him come on the radio show. I was an economics reporter. I would cover for local issues, budgets, and economics, and I was going some schooling for that. And then I covered on the air, and I love talking about economics. And one of the best things I've always said, outside of knowing the good Lord is your savior, free market economics will turn economies around. If you got a problem in the black community, free market economics, deal with the crime. I mean, they've got money. There's money there. That'll turn things around. Poor rural counties, maybe AI data centers that can turn things around. But anyway, free market economics can turn things around. The governor here, and there's been this movement, and I'm going to start with you on this one, Alex Bougher. I know you guys talk about it because I know you're on Newsmax and Fox every night. There is this thing in Florida about whether or not are we going to eliminate property taxes. We're probably not going to do it. It's a cluster mess because you got homestead, non-homestead. You got businesses that are afraid they're going to have to pick up the tab. No one's looking out for them. So the governor keeps saying, I've got a plan. We're still waiting to see if that happens. What probably is going to end up happening is it's like what Trump did with the tax bill. They'll raise exemptions, and that could be beneficial for people's back pocket. But I want to play for you a clip. There were 4 avenues that have been talked about for the last 10 to 15 years because cities and governments can never rein in their spending. So let's talk about a local level. There were 4 avenues. One was raising the income tax here in Florida. Ed, I don't know if Democrats are still talking about that. We'll address that in a second. The other one was offshore drilling. That's kind of gone by the wayside. Now there's been 2 big ones. Either we legalize more sports gambling or online sports gambling, stop restricting it, or we start legalizing marijuana and we start accepting it more to go down the path of funding schools and funding government. Here we go. Fox Business Network, Cheryl Casoni, with the CEO of TrueLeave of Kim Rivers. This issue was brought up.
Could mean for tax reform. Obviously, these states that have ratified cannabis see a great revenue opportunity.
We have, thousands and thousands of employees now that work for state legal cannabis companies in the United States. I'd say that as it relates to tax reform, we're subject to 280E, which means that we pay a punitive tax. We're part of the punitive tax code. Last 2 years, we paid over $235 million in excess taxes to the federal government because we are a state legal cannabis company.
Okay, let me do the big broad picture here, Alex, and then I'll get to more of the micro with Ed on Florida here. If counties can never cut their spending, the argument is we need more. These are the 2 hottest items: is legalization of pot and sports gambling, and we can fund your local public school. Here's the question, Alex. Does that sell?
I hate it, honestly, right off the bat. I don't know if it's more that it's going towards education and schools and minors, and we're talking about something that is for over 18 years old. But I just feel like we're overspending, and instead of trying to make more money, right? Let's fix the budget. Let's fix where we're spending money. Let's remodel schools, school choice, things like that. Why does it cost so much money? We need to look at the bigger picture here. Kids don't need to be in school 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day. They just don't. Okay.
Well, hold on. I agree with you, but the question is, let me rephrase the question,
okay,
Your Honor.
All right.
Does the argument, let's say revenues dip, whatever, don't Ed, we're going to get to the Florida situation here in a second. If revenues dip, nobody wants to raise taxes. So if the argument is we're in an anti-tax era, which we may be in some cases, and rightfully so, anti-tax increase, hey, we got to raise revenue. Well, it's based on volume, like a sales tax. If you don't gamble, doesn't bother you, somebody else gambles out of the state, more tax revenue comes in, or the legalization of marijuana. Do you think these are plausible? And that's what the argument will be to sell these 2 items to the American population.
I mean, I guess if you frame it like that, it's definitely plausible. I just don't like it. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. You know, Ed, on the Florida level, it's not going to really matter until what we find out what the property tax is going to do. So I know we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. I guarantee you that if they could have got it on the ballot this year, and they're going to get it on the ballot in 2028, and they're going to be pushing for more sports gambling, so they're going to make the argument at, hey, we got this tax revenue that was pushed by people like Ed and the governor. We got to raise more revenue. Does this become an issue that voters sit back and go, raise revenue, we need more money for public schools. It's marijuana and sports online gambling. What the heck? I don't smoke. Let's go ahead and do it. Ed, does that sell here in Florida?
No, I don't think so. First of all, we've got a special session in July where we're going to talk about the property tax issue, and that's going to be resolved. It's going to be a stupid thing. It's going to be over 8 million jillion years and everything else. So we've got time to talk about it. First of all, I hate pot. I think it's disgusting. I think the smell of it is gross. And you know what? You want to talk about revenue? All right, I'll talk about revenue because, I'm a finance guy. We'll talk about that. But I also want in place a lot of rules and laws for driving under the influence, because look what happened in Colorado. Colorado showed a massive increase in traffic fatalities once they legalized pot. And so they like the 231 million, but guess what? That's blood money as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
And as far as legalized gambling doesn't fly in Florida. The Seminoles already cut that deal. We are not getting any more from them, and they got a 30-year deal that happened in,
But there are outside groups that would love to come in, as you know. There's outside Vegas groups that would love to come in.
No, they're not coming in Florida.
You don't think they're going to be able to, huh?
No, Seminoles own that 100 million%. They've been trying to get a Monte Carlo of Miami for the longest time, and it won't fly without the Seminole blessing. And the Seminoles not going to bless anyone taking one penny of legal gambling.
Online? Even online gambling? I mean,
online is regulated in Florida by the Seminoles.
You don't
completely by the Seminoles.
You don't think online's going to happen?
Not in Florida.
Do they have like a verification? Like you have to put your driver's license? Okay.
Yep. No, it's crazy. The Seminoles have
Alex, you looking to make
got
a
it
bet tonight?
locked down.
What?
I see, Alex, why, you looking to make a bet tonight?
No, I hate gambling.
Do you
No.
really?
Yes, when my husband, and he doesn't really do it too much either, but let's say he'll play a few tables. I go to the spa.
I'll play a couple games. I got to tell you a funny.
I go to the spa.
Okay, well, there we go. Hey, Ed, I got to tell you a funny story.
That's a lot of pressure. What if I don't laugh? What if it's not funny?
No, for me, I found it funny. And it doesn't matter.
I'm instructing you that it is funny.
I know, right?
So, think about this for a second. When the poker rooms 20 years ago opened up, Alex, it was they kind of restricted it on some of the games, but these days, before they stopped the dog races, I mean, you still got horse races going on. So let me refer to that. These poker rooms, which I rarely go to, but after like a Sunday after church, if the place was packed to watch a ball game, the place to go was the poker rooms because they had a big auditorium. You could watch the ball game. It was like going to a second-rate movie theater where you could, if you don't want to pay $50 for a pay-per-view of a UFC or a wrestling, you pay $6. You can drink, which I don't do, but you can have, in other words, they had extra amenities. And I remember one Sunday after church, about 1 or 2 o'clock, I was driving up and I see people walking around, 3-piece suits, good-looking clothes. And one of my buddies who I knew for years was one of the general managers of the horse track. And I said, is there a bunch of elected officials? Is the governor in town? And he knew I was a reporter. He goes, Ed, those are all the people leaving church, coming to put money on the horses. And I said, dadgummit, no wonder the church offerings are low. They're spending, I was like, oh, really? I mean, it was certain dynamics of people showing up, but they were all showing up after church to bet on these horses and things like that. And Ed, the reason why I'm bringing this up is we told this story with Alex, who's been on with us. Ed, you've got both of you. I know, Alex, you do a ton of TV. Of course, I own the state radio, Florida radio, well, all these markets. And Ed, you own the Primal Truth podcast and everything else. And Ed, we talk about the biggest formats of where people get their news. Now, follow me for the audience. We've covered this at floridadaily.com. These numbers are fact. Talk radio is still the biggest medium that people get their news. Set that to the side. Some months, and I read these from these radio trades, some months it's Christian contemporary radio, Truth and Teach, NPR, country music. The biggest forecast of a radio format that is projected to grow is sports radio. And Ed, the reason why they're saying that is of all the bets, that are going to be taking place. And as much as you say that, well, the Seminoles own it, when it comes to more revenue, online sports gambling is $156 billion. I see them trying to compete with the Seminoles. Unless the Seminoles plan to expand, I don't see them turning down other sports groups coming in if there's a boatload of revenue to be made here in Florida. I just don't see it. I think they do it.
Well, Alex, I hope you noticed that what Ed said was after church, not after I went to church, but after church. So I'm just saying,
I went to church.
there was a subtle nuance there.
Whatever, dude.
No, but if you live in Florida and you have an IP address in Florida and you have a cell phone in Florida and you have your home residence in Florida, you're gambling online. You're going through the Seminoles. It's just the way it is. Will they want to attach to it? Yeah, I mean, there's never been a form of revenue that the government didn't want to attach to for lack of the ability to actually make things, better the right way. Look what just happened in New York with Crazy Mamdani, where he's, yelling outside a billionaire's house that they're not paying enough. And what did Jeff Bezos just come out and say? He was like, seriously, I'm paying all of these taxes. I got to tell you something, that ain't going to fix the problem. And it never will, giving bad people more money. What they got to do is fix bad policy.
Alex, follow me for a second. Do the optics come across as we tell our kids don't do drugs, but we're talking about using the benefits that they want to legalize the drug with marijuana? But Alex, I wonder if that has been watered down. I understand. I go to church with people that would have never proclaimed the usage of marijuana. And the older people love the medical marijuana. They don't have to puff it up. They can take it in pill form. Have we watered down this marijuana issue? Because there has been certain things that we can look at for studies that it has helped. I understand the pros and cons, but it's like online. You get the pros and cons with sites that are beneficial and sites that are not for kids. Have we watered down the whole marijuana debate because, we've gone down the path of medical marijuana?
I mean, medical marijuana is so different, though. And again, I don't listen. Thank God I have my health. I'm not sick, and so I can't make that decision for anybody else. And if you're in pain and that's what helps you, I would say, you're an adult, so you make that choice for, God forbid, a child who's sick. You do what you have to do, but that's for medical reasons. This is not to get high and not have to think about the world or whatever. I don't even know what benefits you're getting out of that. I know it's disgusting. I know that I can't be on a highway in my car without smelling it from the car passing me. And my children now are like, there it is again. And they're 10 and 12, and they shouldn't have to smell that. I wouldn't allow them around somebody who smelled the booze or alcohol. You know what I mean? I'd be like, that's disgusting. Stay away from my children. Yet they can't walk down a road. They can't be in a car. They can't pretty much go anywhere without smelling that. And so I honestly think legalizing it was, this is my own opinion. I think it was a mistake. I think it was a mistake, and we need more people to be excellent in life, not less excellence. And people are not going to the gym. They're not, maybe going for hikes.
I know,
not
but that's more about
healthy things. You know what I mean?
Hey, Ed, real quick. I didn't mean to interrupt. Ed, you're in, Alex, I know you're in Jersey and you're in Florida all the time. You got an income tax. But Ed, do you still talk? I mean, you're in West Palm Beach. You got a lot of Democrats. Do they still publicly? I know they did it 8 years ago. They Andrew Gillum, and that's a long time. The unions used to proclaim, we get more revenue if we have an income tax. Do you still find Democrats still talking about, if we just had an income tax in Florida, we could take care of the problems? Did they still bring that issue up at all? Or they realize that ain't going to happen, they just ignore it?
No, they don't bring it up because that's why they moved to Florida.
No,
you got to remember, all these old people are sitting there going, I don't want to have to pay. Look, I'm from Jersey. I sold my company when I was in Jersey. I moved to Florida prior to selling my company. And I was here for more than 6 months, even more than that. But before I sold my company, so that I could qualify to not have to pay the New Jersey taxes when I sold my company. And that's what people are coming here for. So, it's a slippery slope. And it's talk about a slippery slope. That's what pot is. It's been a slippery slope where it was a drug. Now it's more then it was medicinal. Then it's recreational. And how do you call it recreational? You know what? That's like saying I'm getting loaded on vodka recreational.
Alex,
no, you're an alcoholic if you do that.
Yeah.
Alex kind of said a couple moments ago, Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going down that path. I don't support it. Ed, in Florida, is it going to happen? Is it just inevitable that marijuana is going to get legalized? Maybe not to the capacity of Colorado, but it's going to get legalized some way or the other next couple of years.
I would think that it probably is. I mean, it failed the last time it was on as a ballot initiative. But, you know, it all depends the demographics of the people that are coming here and where they're coming from and what they're trying to escape. That's the thing that people don't understand. You know, it's not that Republicans are moving to Florida. It's that Democrats from New Jersey, from New York, from California are moving to Florida and going, not for nothing, I don't New York my Florida. And they're adopting Florida a bit more so than people that have been here for decades.
You know what we say, Alex? Don't New York my Florida. I say, don't Ed Lynch my radio show. All right. So a little inside joke, Ed. All right. Ed Lynch, the Primal Truth. Got big stuff going on with that podcast and video and everything else. Ed, I'm glad you came on today.
It's always my pleasure to see you guys.
Yeah,
always fun with Ed.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. So, Alex, you've been on with us this week. We have fun. I love Ed Lynch. I'm very particular with a lot of the guests. Before you get going, you know, it's kind of interesting. I'm very particular comes on the show because I live by ratings. That's the reason why I beat everybody. But the thing is I like entertaining guests. You come on with us. I'm in your ways. You're super mom. You're busy with everybody. But I love the guests that come on. I'm very particular. And now, listen, you are like different because now you're on Newsmax. You're fresh new blood coming on Fox. I don't have to keep watching the same people I've been watching 20, 25 years. And that's what we do on the radio show is that I rarely have elected officials come on. Nothing against them. It's just, I just had my breakfast. I love hearing analysis from people like you that have skin in the game, but I don't have to spin it. So I'm trying to get a fundraiser or work on a vote.
And layman's terms helps too. You know, you have your average American that are listening. They don't understand half the terms that people use. Just talk like everyday American. That's it.
Well, you can follow Alex Bougher on Facebook. She is her best PR firm. And so anyway, she's on Newsmax every day and on Fox News. Alex, I'm glad you came on this week to help us out.
So much fun. Thank you.
All right. Don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube page. It's free. We'll like it. Otherwise, read it and we'll watch us all at the Florida Daily Show at floridadaily.com.